criminal activity has become part of China's strategy to grow its power in conjunction with its authoritarian statecraft.
A woman named Yingqian Wang and a man named Stephen Ho.
They don't around and they're not going to take your pinky. No one's going to see you again.
We knew going out that he said that he didn't want to come back to Oklahoma. He'd be dead if he come back to Oklahoma.
What you just saw is a small preview of the result of countless hours of in-depth reporting, open source research, and undercover work that was directly informed by your exclusive tips. Now, what we've discovered here was a series of clandestine foreign actors collaborating on United States soil in the realms of drugs, human trafficking, murder, espionage, and it's not the plot of a Mission Impossible movie. Fortunately, everyone's least favorite Scientologist is nowhere to be found. What you're about to see is a true story of how international organized crime connected to one of the most powerful governments in the world, that's foreshadowing, has taken over Middle America, and how it threatens to do the same across the entire United States. In 2018, Oklahoma legalized the medical use of marijuana after a statewide referendum passed with 57% of the vote. Now, pause. Let me be clear here. This piece has nothing to do with whether you're against cannabis legalization, whether you're for it, whether you partake or are Mennonite. This is about the unintended or fully intended fallout as it relates to American landowners, taxpayers, and the communist Chinese government. Few quick numbers for you. Since July 2021, the state has collected over $155 million in marijuana-related tax revenue. Now, we've all heard for decades, and I once believed this too, that legalizing or decriminalizing drugs would eliminate the black market. In Oklahoma, the exact opposite has happened. There has been an unprecedented number of illegal operations, grow farms, growing at rates breaking records, completely unseen before. The real problem is the owners and the players milking this cash cow for all it's worth at your expense. Basically, think less Jeff Spicoli.
You dick!
And more communist tyrant El Chapo. Now, the implications go far beyond state or even national borders, and they constitute a full-blown threat to America's national security. To put it simply, this may surprise a lot of people. Oklahoma is the weed capital of the United States. No, not Colorado, not California, not even New York. Oklahoma, which has forced them to change their state motto to more than just tornadoes and chaps. Here are a few more numbers to show you just how much of a weed haven Oklahoma actually is. 2,683 dispensaries in Oklahoma. This is the most in the nation and more than double the number located in the number 2 state, California. Twice the dispensaries of California. 844 million grams of cannabis packaged in Oklahoma in 2023. That's 64 times the amount that consumers in Oklahoma could possibly need. 4,617, that's the number of active growers just in 2024. And that's only exceeded by California with 5,491. At its peak, Oklahoma had nearly 14,000 licenses. The point is, a lot of cash, a lot of THC. One grower who asked to remain anonymous due to his ongoing involvement in the state's cannabis industry laid out exclusively to Mug Club Undercover here why he was attracted to Oklahoma, even without the chaps.
Real estate's real cheap. The license, the barrier to entry was $2,500, which, I mean, looking back on it now, any person that sells any kind of drugs can come up with that to get a legal license, which we've seen a lot of. But it was barrier to entry was cheap. You know, land I paid like $6,000 for 2.5 acres.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nothing, you know? I mean, it's just very, very cheap out here, and this was gonna kind of be our American dream, you know? This was me getting away from having to do physical labor. This was us having a family business with my dad. And it just didn't turn out that way. But yeah, what brought us down there is it was just so cheap, man. It was so affordable for a blue-collar person to be able to do it.
So it's a new gold rush, as it were, filled with absolutely baked prospectors. But make no mistake, those seeking to take advantage of the conditions on the ground include a lot of less than scrupulous actors. And there's one specific group that has taken particular advantage of Oklahoma's relaxed, chill industry standards. China. As it turns out, the only thing that these Chinese nationals like more than the marijuana industry in the United States is Hollywood movie posters.
This is for the movie poster. They removed Chewbacca.
This character seems to be in the forefront, like he is the centerpiece. But here they depict him turned around, and he's not even looking towards the audience.
So right here, and if you didn't know about this, there's a story out there about this character and the race and gender swap.
It's as a thought experiment. Watch Star Wars again and tell me the Empire is not literally exactly the same as the Chinese government.
And to the surprise of absolutely no one in the history of Earth ever, frequently these Chinese nationals are involved in, wait for it, highly illegal activity focused primarily on the black market. The Chinese involvement in the marijuana industry is so extensive that officials note it's actually more surprising if you encounter an illegal operation without connections to China. Of the 800 farms shut down from 2021 to 2023, 75% were linked directly to China. Here's Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics spokesperson Mark Woodward talking with us exclusively, outlining the specific practices that Chinese crime organizations, you've heard of the triads, how they infiltrate the industry.
You would look over a fence and it's not 2 or 3 local guys growing marijuana like we'd seen for the first couple of years. It would be 50 what would appear to be Asian Chinese workers, which is not a problem as long as they're not, violating any laws.
Sure.
But when we would start getting calls that from law enforcement out of state saying that we just intercepted a truckload of marijuana, the driver says it came off of so-and-so farm in Oklahoma, and we would start investigating that farm. And sure enough, it was one of these Chinese-operated farms where all the workers were Chinese, but yet the owner is listed as a certain person, and it turns out that person is a secretary in a law office. So you're kind of going, okay, what's going on here? And so we started looking into what's behind the ownership. Who are these people? And what we started to realize, and one of the things that was written into Oklahoma's law that's fairly unique, it said 75% of your ownership has to be somebody who's been an Oklahoma resident for 2 years. Well, obviously that's a problem for a criminal organization linked to Chinese organized crime that's been growing in the Northern California desert, for the last 8 years, supplying black market marijuana to Flushing, New York.
Now, before we get to the real crimes, this one's just kind of annoying. It's a dick move. They often steal massive amounts of water, electricity, leading to shortages for the local community. It's a crappy thing to do, but it's not as bad as the cold-blooded killing. Yeah, that's exemplified by the quadruple murder of 4 Chinese workers on a marijuana farm in Kingfisher County, Oklahoma in November 2022.
A search is ongoing for a quadruple murder suspect in Kingfisher County. 4 bodies were found last night at a 10-acre marijuana grow farm as another person is hospitalized with injuries. Law enforcement's deployed massive resources in that search for the alleged attacker.
The suspect, who was eventually apprehended in Florida, was a 45-year-old male named Chen Wu with the most predictable mugshot ever. He showed up on the farm demanding he immediately be paid $300,000 as repayment for his investment in the operation.
I've got to be very careful because it's still under investigation and we're not the investigating agency. But from what we can gather, this Chinese individual male showed up at the farm, was demanding money that he felt he and or others maybe in an investment group were owed, and had orders that if they don't pay, they're going to be kill them, because these are just workers. They can replace those workers. And when they said we don't have the money, he started shooting them one at a time. Ended up killing 4 of them. A 5th person escaped and managed to notify authorities. Most of the time, though, they will not leave a witness.
Like a communist Chinese Warren Buffett. Now he's been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count assault and battery with a deadly weapon, which when you think about it, that's the 4 counts of murder really should tie that up with a bow, but we'll toss in assault and battery while we're at it. Now, in a twist turn of fate, the survivor from Wu's murder spree actually ended up at the same Oklahoma jail where Wu was being held. And we were actually able to talk with Ken Thompson, a lieutenant at the Kingfisher County Sheriff's Office, to hear a little bit more about this specific case.
Myself and another deputy actually went down to Florida, to Miami-Dade, and picked up the shooter and brought him back from Miami-Dade.
Oh, yeah, I heard that he was...
Transport him back up.
I heard he was very hesitant to come back to Oklahoma because he thought he was going to get killed.
It was a weird deal. Of course, we knew going out that he said that he didn't want to come back to Oklahoma. He'd be dead if he come back to Oklahoma. And it was really weird because he was cordial the whole time. He didn't speak a lot of English, but you know, we got him out for the bathroom, and we fed him on the way back and stuff like that, and he just sat back there quietly. Well, our last gas stop was Weber Falls once we crossed into Oklahoma, and you couldn't pry him out of the vehicle.
Wow.
It's like he knew that he was in Oklahoma and there was no way he was getting out of that car. I says, "You'll be all right. We're here." And he's like, No. I'm like, okay. So he left him in the car.
Were you ever contacted, or were you ever in contact with anybody in China, to your knowledge? Like government officials, embassy, things like that?
There were a couple of guys that stopped at dispatch one day that I think that said that the 911 center that said that they were connected to the Chinese embassy, and they were referred to the OSBI.
And the murders don't stop in Kingfisher County, or as it's known by some, namely when a good county to murder. According to Mr. Woodward of the OBN, they've actually become quite common all over the state.
We've seen others on a not quite that scale, but certainly homicides have been something that we've seen a lot of linked to marijuana since 2020, when we really saw the black market migrate to our state.
Now, when we asked the same local grower, we showed you earlier why local authorities were so powerless to stop these illegal actions by Chinese nationals, like murder. He claimed it was because the cops were on the take.
I've spoken with a couple law enforcement officials from Oklahoma, and they act like they have a handle on it. They're like, well, we're shutting down a bunch of these.
My wife's laughing at you in the background. She heard you say that.
I didn't say, hey, this isn't from me. This is from law enforcement. I'm not.
That's the funniest thing we've heard yet. The police, especially in rural Oklahoma, are all on the take.
Now, to be clear, we don't have any proof to back that claim up, and according to the official statistics from the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, they've cut the number of grow farms in the state from 9,400 in 2021 to 3,200 in 2023. So do with that what you will. And the Kingfisher County Sheriff's Department was really pretty helpful with us in our investigation, so thanks to them. However, it does seem that nearly every week there's a report of a new grow operation being raided, so clearly there's a problem going on. Our team here, supported by viewers like you, by the way, thank you, actually visited the site of one of these illegal grow operations that was shut down in Carter County, Oklahoma in December 2023.
All right, we are out here just north of Healdton, Oklahoma. That's about halfway between the border and Oklahoma City, at the site of a shut down illicit marijuana farm that was taken down by the Bureau of Narcotics last month. And on the property, they found over 11,000 plants, which is about 300 pounds of marijuana. Now, this is 46-year-old Jimmy Dang that was arrested in connection with this. Oftentimes what happens, what he's pending charges for, is something called straw ownership, where the company is set up by someone in Oklahoma ostensibly, but oftentimes it's someone that's out of state or a foreign national that's running these type of organizations. Now, there's a lot of problems here, and I don't say this lightly. These people are responsible for things like sex trafficking, human trafficking, illegal narcotic sale across state borders, whatever. They're finding fentanyl, they're finding ketamine, murder in Kingfisher County, right? Maybe the worst thing, and not the worst thing, but something that's really going to get at you is this man just left 1 million dogs out here abandoned, right? Like this little guy, completely abandoned. And I mean, it's not a human, but still, who's going to take care of him? Clearly, there was no responsibility there. And Mama's over here. Yeah, I know. And I mean, it is a dog, but this shows you how little these people care, because here's Mama's puppy right here, completely dead because some idiot decided he wanted to run drugs.
By the way, all the references are available in the description or at loudearthcutter.com, and I encourage you to check them out. So now that you know Middle America is being taken over by murderous international crime organizations of largely people small in stature, where are they all coming from? How are they getting here? So to set the stage here, in December 2023, the southern border of the United States saw an all-time record of 302,000 known crossings. And while a bulk of those are from places like Central America, you've got Venezuela, a not so insignificant number are coming from,
let's say, China.
In 2023, at least 25,000 people illegally crossed from China, and that's more than the previous 10 years combined.
A long line of Chinese migrants make their way to the U.S. through its border with Mexico. They've arrived after a treacherous journey through a route in Panama that has become increasingly popular.
我很开心，我来到了美国，这是我梦想中最喜欢的国家。
And this is why an open borders policy is not compassionate. It is the opposite of compassionate. These people are not dreamers just trying to get here, seeking a better life, to get a glimpse at the Statue of Liberty. A lot of these Chinese migrants, they arrive here in the United States with extensive debt, either owed to smugglers that help them reach the United States, or to parties back in China with connections very often directly to the communist Chinese government. And it makes them a perfect target for the organized crime leaders here in the United States of these Chinese grow farms to victimize.
We have absolutely intercepted individuals that have come straight to Oklahoma from China across the border that have been smuggled in here. And that's why so much of them are willing to work in horrible conditions, and that's where they get into the labor trafficking, because many of them are now paying off this debt, quote unquote. They're constantly reminded, remember, we smuggled you into this country. We put up we put a lot on the line for you, so now you got to work off this debt. Well, guess what? That debt never ends. And that's for females and males. So that's how a lot of these females get involved in prostitution, and a lot of these males end up working on marijuana farms for deplorable conditions and are scared to death to say anything, because at least they've got a job and the hopes of being able to send money back home to their families. So yes, absolutely. They're pouring across the border with the specific task of hooking up to a marijuana farm and working, quote unquote, this debt off for these people that help smuggle them in here. But they just simply smuggle slave labor so they can maximize their profits working on these farms.
Slaves. Let's be clear about that. Slaves. There are more slaves right now on Earth than ever in recorded history. Did you know that? Than ever. Because of situations like this. Slaves. Say it. Do something about it. People who want to teach that America is uniquely responsible for the evil of slavery historically, as though it doesn't exist across the globe. And it's still happening today in the United States, in these situations, because of the fact that people who are paid to represent us don't enforce their own laws. Now, we also spoke with the Oklahoma junior senator, Markwayne Mullin, or at least his office, and they confirmed that there is a significant concern regarding the influx of Chinese migrants at the border. This is China taking advantage, knowing that they can be facilitating both drugs and personnel across the southern border. And Oklahoma doesn't get talked about a whole lot necessarily in the border conversation, but they should, because Texas, of course, is always under the gun. Now, of course, these Chinese migrants / often slaves or indentured servants, if your white guilt gets the better of you, they don't always come directly through the border. Oftentimes, they're actively recruited from other cities like Los Angeles or New York. And after a little digging, we were actually able to locate some of these job postings. Here are a couple of examples of the recruitment ads luring Chinese workers to Oklahoma. Farm recruitment requires diligence, quickness, and no fuss. Experienced people will be given priority. Oklahoma regular farm urgent recruitment. Pause. If someone specifies regular farm, it's not a regular farm. Able to endure hardships and stand hard work. Quick at work without fuss. Responsible. Good hygiene. Novice or experienced male workers are welcome. Now, in both of these ads, first off, they really have a thing about fussing. So if you want to be a Chinese slave working at a grow farm, fussing it can't be in your wheelhouse. But they also listed compensation as negotiable. And applicants were given this directive. When contacting, please say you are in Saw It on the American Jobs website. And that last one, in my opinion, is too broad. Is it Craigslist? Is it TaskRabbit? Or is it ChineseSlave.com? Luckily for us, they both included phone numbers, so we decided to give them a call and see exactly what it was that they were offering, with no fuss, mind you.
I saw your job listing on American Jobs Network, recruiting farm workers for Oklahoma. Is this the correct number?
Oh, no. Right now we got people looking now.
Oh, okay. Do you know anybody else that's hiring right now? I have a bunch of people looking for work.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay, well... Are you sure it's for a job in Oklahoma? I have some people that may be interested.
No, I'm not hiring people.
Oh, is this American Job Network?
No.
Megwa Gongjo?
No.
Sauce. Two things here. One, that's convenient. Two, they clearly had absolutely no idea what we were talking about due to the severe, almost comical Chinese accent, which, by the way, you've noticed I haven't done once here, which is really hard because I want to do it, and these people are criminals. Now, one reason they might not have wanted white Americans to know what they're up to is, these recruiting agencies are basically sending workers into slave labor camps. Our source, though, on the ground, and Mr. Woodward at OBN, both spoke on this.
With the Chinese people, it's a few that run everything, and everyone else is living very, very hard lives. Where I went, where I did consulting, they had 60 greenhouses, and they put one family per greenhouse to run it. Each family had a 10-by-10 room. That's parents, kids, children, all lived in a 10-by. I've seen these rooms. Some of them didn't have floors with raw sewage running under them. One bathroom for 15 families. They have one dining hall. They'll go out into the woods. Someone will shoot a wild hog, a feral hog. They'll cook that up in a big wok with rice and feed everybody.
Is this essentially a human trafficking operation by other means also?
Well, for the boots on the ground, the true farms themselves, it's slave labor. So they see it as, these people will get paid. We talk to them once we serve search warrants on these farms and through interpreters. Some of them will say they haven't been paid yet. They're being told I'll be paid once once our farm makes a profit. They're living in sometimes 16 men in one mobile home with no running water, working plumbing. It just absolutely deplorable conditions. But sadly, through interpreters, they say, I'm happy. They won't complain because they say through interpreters, this is a step up. You should see how my family's living back in China. So that breaks your heart. These are victims themselves, but they won't complain, and so we can't oftentimes file human trafficking or labor trafficking on them. But yes, absolutely, it's slave labor for these farms.
And if that isn't bad enough, the trafficking operations, of course, aren't just limited to farm workers. Anytime you have human trafficking, it involves sex trafficking. Oklahoma law enforcement often finds these brothels in more upscale neighborhoods throughout the state.
You get into the sex trafficking too, though, because there's also a lot of Asian females, specifically China and Japanese, that were brought into this to cater to these workers. And so we have identified underground Asian brothels that operated out of residential locations in Oklahoma, where through these underground websites, they would bring in workers from, and not typically the marijuana workers themselves, but more the managers and administrators of these farms, so people with real money. They would come into these houses in multi-million-dollar neighborhoods for prostitution and ketamine. We're intercepting a lot of ketamine, which is really big in the Chinese culture. We've seized more ketamine out of since Oklahoma legalized marijuana than we had in my previous 28 years with our agency. And it's because of that Chinese culture. So these brothels where there's ketamine trafficking and sex trafficking, and we talked to some of those women when we served search warrants, and they absolutely said we are victims. We are not willing participants, and we have been able to get some of those females help.
Now, this may come as a surprise. The world of international narcotics and sex trafficking isn't all glitz and glamour. It does come with some hoops to jump through, financial, legal, and a lot of these prospective entrepreneurs do so. Now, here we have Bill Jones, the California Department of Cannabis Control's Chief of Law Enforcement. It's a really difficult title. Bill, you got to shorten it. He said in a March Politico article, these organizations, I can't overstate how much effort they take to layer or protect their identity. You don't have heads of the Chinese or Mexican cartels buying these properties. Lucky for them, they have plenty of help. So some credit here. A lot of the inspiration that led to us investigating this story came from our tip line through a journalist in Maine named Steve Robinson. Now, Mr. Robinson is working on a similar story of Chinese nationals taking over the weed industry in Maine. During his research, he noticed that a lot of mortgages to the Maine grow farms were provided by New York headquartered Quantic Bank. Among their many services, Quantic lists on their website specific financing to help foreign nationals acquire U.S. property. According to their own description, our foreign national mortgage loans may be the perfect home financing solution for non-U.S. citizens looking to invest in U.S. real estate. We assess your overall financial profile, not limiting your chances due to paperwork or documentation obstacles. You know, like the law.
Nice. And then slap. What do you think this is? The Indianapolis 500? Knock it off!
We were lucky enough to speak with Mr. Robinson and learn a little more about how Quantic initially appeared on his radar.
Yeah, so I think this all really started in August when the Daily Caller News Foundation reported on a leaked memo. It was really just a picture that someone took of an email that had circulated amongst Border Patrol, Department of Homeland Security, that said that there were 270 or more illegal Chinese marijuana growing facilities operating in the state of Maine. When the memo came out, it didn't have any details about where these properties might be, but I communicated with Jenny Terre, the reporter who broke that memo, and she actually came up here to do some firsthand investigating, and we took the properties that were on a partial list that she got, maybe 12 different addresses, and we pulled the deed information from the county registry office just to see who the property belonged to. And one thing we noticed based on looking at those was that this same bank was popping up over and over again, and it's Quantic Bank.
Naturally, we wanted to see if these bastards had any footprint in Oklahoma. Spoiler, they do. These bastards do. They certainly do. Now, our search of Oklahoma public records turned up a slew of results for Quantic, mostly mortgages on rural properties. These properties are located all over the states. Here's an example. This property in Hominy, Oklahoma, sits on a 47-acre lot in the middle of nowhere. Prairie views, open land, good for sex trafficking. I don't know. 47 acres is your oyster. These other two, located in Seminole and Sayre, possess what seem to be already massive greenhouses, perfect for your tomato hobby or narcotics and unwilling prostitutes. This property in Howe has 3 massive storage facilities that would make for perfect grow houses. And this ranch house in Stroud, which doesn't stand out other than the fact that the buyer of the property comes from Queens, New York. Now, remember earlier when Mark Woodward from the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics told us that most of the heads of these illegal grows came from Flushing, New York? Flushing, in a neighborhood where is it? Ding, 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 Queens. So the same bank that lent money to illegal marijuana growers in Maine also lent to borrowers in Oklahoma, including those from Flushing, Queens, the hub of China's illegal weed empire in the United States. Now that's compelling, I would say, but that's me, Mr. Traditional. It doesn't stop there. Following up further on the Maine Wire's reporting, we cross-referenced Quantix Oklahoma mortgage documents for the name Ying Chan Wang. Real name, don't get mad at me, Ying Chan Wang, who, along with another man named Stephen Ho, real name, signed off on a majority of the loans in Maine. Now, what did we find? Nearly all of Quantix Oklahoma mortgages with Chinese names were signed off by Wang or Ho, again with Wang appearing on most of them. Wang is a loan officer at Quantix Astoria headquarters. Now, she earned her master's degree in public affairs at the University of Texas, but attended undergraduate at Zhejiang, hope I'm saying that correctly, but I don't care, University in Hangzhou, a city on the eastern coast of her native China. Zhejiang University, close enough like most in China, of course, has strong, if not direct, ties to the Chinese Communist Party. In 2004, the China's People Liberation Army, right, the PLA, posted an ad specifically at the university on their website to recruit people for Unit 61398, a hacking and espionage arm of said PLA. In 2017, visiting scholars from the university formed a Communist Party cell at UC San Diego to discuss Xi Jinping's speeches, and it was hard to distinguish them from other communist groups at said university. We could tell by the height. Now, do we know this? Is Wang a CCP spy? We can't make that claim, but we can say, according to one official statement, she's on the radar of Oklahoma authorities. Now, wanting to give her a chance to explain things for herself, we decided to give Miss Wang a call.
Quantix's name is now appearing on mortgages in Oklahoma that are suspected of being illicit marijuana operations. And unfortunately, your name and Mr. Ho's name, Stephen Ho's name, is on a lot of these mortgages. And I was just wondering if you knew that that was the case.
I'm going to have to send you to my PR person at the firm, and you can speak to her about this.
No, I would love to do that. And again, we're not saying that this has anything to do with you necessarily. We would really like to speak with someone at your bank because we want to know kind of what the process is that's letting
Let me give you her name.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Her name, Casey.
Okay.
And her number is 646.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Bye.
Now, we should have seen that coming, considering that it was old supervisor hang-up. But that's a far cry from the reaction she had when she spoke to Mr. Robinson in Maine a few days prior to our phone call.
Those, according to my investigation, those properties are actually being used as illegal marijuana growing operations controlled by Chinese foreign nationals. I'm wondering if you had any knowledge of that when you were originating the loans.
Oh, they were all really?
Yeah. They're actually on a Department of Homeland Security list flagged as controlled by Asian transnational organized crime.
Oh my God.
So you had no knowledge when you were originating those loans?
No, I never met those people. Oh my God.
Now, of course, they never got back to us. They passed us off to the chief empowerment officer, who's a patsy for the higher-ups. So once these operators set up shop in Oklahoma, they need help getting their business off the ground. And to do so, they have to meet a series of industry regulations. So according to Oklahoma law, licenses are available for Oklahoma residents who are at least 25 years old. Applicants must provide documents establishing the applicant and the members, managers, and board members, if applicable, and 75% of the commercial applicants' ownership interests are Oklahoma residents as required in the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana and Patient Protection Act. Ah, yes, the patients. Forgot about them. At least those Chinese slaves are keeping these patients medicated. That last part, by the way, is crucial. 75% of the ownership must be Oklahoma residents. So how do Chinese nationals operating on behalf of crime syndicates, who presumably are not Oklahoman citizens, skirt the regulations? Well, they have help from fixers.
And you had these entities, like I said, these law firms that would step up and say, don't worry about your 75% owner. You pay us a fee, we're going to get you a license, and that will include, we will find somebody to put down as your 75% owner. So on the surface, you're going to look legit. So when they do a background, and because that's all you need to get a license in Oklahoma, right, pay $2,500 and pass the background, which is no felony in 5 years. And so they made sure that the person on the license as the 75% primary owner is squeaky clean.
One such person who jumped out on our radar was a consulting officer out of Oklahoma City called Mamama. That's right, Mamama. Fun to say, easy person to dislike. A former Oklahoma grower writing to us on the condition of anonymity actually outlined the work that Mamama does. Something else I have learned by doing business with the Chinese is that they all, or at least the ones I've interacted with, are connected with a Chinese lawyer whose offices occupy an entire floor in a high-rise office building in downtown Oklahoma City. I had occasion to visit this office, and while there, I asked the man what his business was. He indicated that he was basically a fixer for the Chinese growers. If they needed services, he would connect them with local providers, such as myself, and he provided help with compliance issues. That seems legit enough on the surface, but if I were seriously looking into this issue, this guy would be high on my list to investigate. Every job I have done for them, I have been paid in physical cash, usually in American $20 bills. It was also confirmed to us that Mamama was on the radar, it'll never not be fun to say, of law enforcement in Oklahoma. So in March 2022, this same company, Mamama, filed a lawsuit against Shuxin Chi for defamation. Now that lawsuit identified the owner of Mamama Consult LLC as one Yi Yao Fu, known by her English name as Sona Fu, because that's very English, of Flushing, Queens. Now when looking into Fu, we found she also owns a residence in Edmond, Oklahoma. Right. A record search of that property turned up a mortgage. That mortgage was issued by none other than Quantic Bank and signed off by Stephen Ho, the same loan agent attached to multiple property purchases of weed farms in Maine and suspected weed operations in Oklahoma. Further investigation into Fu, English name, also revealed that she is a certified notary public. So on October 24th, 2023, Fu notarized a groundwater usage permit application for JN Operations and owner Zhu Chi Ni. On December 2024, Xu was arrested and charged with illegal cultivation and drug trafficking. Now, looking into JN Operations LLC, we also found that it was filed for by an Oklahoma attorney named Matt Stacy. Stacy, among other things, is a decorated veteran, a state Senate candidate, and he was appointed by current Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt to head the state's COVID response team. Oh, and Mr. Stacy is listed as the primary contact for 320 marijuana licenses, or about 3.5% of all marijuana licenses in Oklahoma. And in February 2022, he was charged with 13 felony counts related to illicit marijuana. Again, if we legalize all of it, there will be no illicit market. In an attempt to obtain some kind of comment from Yi Yaofu directly, the team here traveled to Mama Ma's downtown Oklahoma City location, and it got spicy. What the f? Like, not level, like if it's, you know, the level 1 to 5 on takeout. 4, you don't order 5, that's just to harm you. So it got to level 4 when we caught up with Mrs. Fu on a conference call with her employees.
Oh, hello. Yes. Hi, is Miss Fu in today? Miss Fu? Yeah. Yao Fu? We had a scheduled appointment with her. Is she not? Yeah, we were supposed to meet with her today? Yeah, we're doing an investigation about the marijuana businesses that got shut down. And we found out that she was attached to it, so we wanted to get a comment from her. We were just curious to know her relationship with Matt Stacy. There's a lot going on. We're running an investigation. Oh, are you sure? Because we found that you notarized Miss Fu notarized a document.
Right. I do a lot on notarize. I do closing as well, but I don't notarize Stacy.
Oh, okay. That's interesting because we were pointed in this direction for that.
I mean,
what about Quantic Bank? Are you familiar with Quantic Bank at all? Quantic Bank out of Queens? Maybe Stephen Ho?
No, the thing is we do closing service.
Oh, okay.
Notarize documents.
Gotcha.
Right? If you ask anybody, you have to show him more information because I don't really remember who that is.
Oh, yeah, that's understandable. But what about, do you know Stephen Ho from Quantic Bank? I think he did the mortgage for you.
Stephen who?
Stephen Ho?
I don't really know who that is.
Oh, okay. Huh. That's interesting because we found Stephen Ho did the mortgage for you, and Quantic has done a lot of lending here as well for the marijuana industry. Is there anybody that we could talk to about this? Because it seems that we know that this place is under investigation, so we were just curious who we might be able to talk to.
I'm Yao Fu.
Oh. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's perfect. If you could, we're just very curious to know about your relationship or Mama Ma's relationship with Quantic Bank, because they're also part of this investigation, and we're finding that they have a relationship with Mama Ma and the marijuana industry. It seems like there's a lot of connection going on here.
I don't have any personal relationship with the Quantic Bank at all.
So you're not familiar with Quantic at all?
Talking about.
So you've never met with a Stephen Ho?
I don't know who that is.
Okay. That's interesting. What do you, Giovanni?
Oh, we don't do mortgage here.
No, I know the mortgage on your house, though, was signed by Stephen Ho.
I have no idea who that is, though.
Is there any way we can get your phone number and we can follow up with you with some questions we might have?
My phone number is 405.
Yeah, you ready that for me?
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
And I'm sorry, who's speaking right now?
Yao Fu.
Miss Fu?
Okay.
0702. So we don't do any mortgage service, and I don't know who that Stephen is, but I do know the right document. I do sometimes I provide the deed, the